Previously on the vocal minority.
Are you part of the silent majority? Or are you part of the vocal minority?
Motherfuckers, go.
Attention, please.
If America can be saved, and I don't know if it's too late, but it'll be through a radio show like this new kind.
This shit here feels like the whole entire world collapsed.
The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers.
It's the vocal minority.
The revolution will be
Welcome
live.
to another episode of the Vocal Minority Report. As always, you could have downloaded any podcast in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that. Got a great show for you today. I know I say that every episode, but we really do today because we have our first return guest. She's a true crime author, pop culture pundit, host of the hit podcast, yes, that's plural, Crime Writers On, and these are their stories, the Law and Order podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our favorite compassionate white woman. It's the great Rebecca Lavoie.
I'm glad I'm your favorite compassionate white woman. I mean, if I'm going to be one, I may as well be the best one.
Exactly right, and that's tough though, because there's a lot of them out there, as we've discussed previously. So, but you're certainly our favorite.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks for having me back. I really appreciate it.
Hey, yeah, no problem. Thanks for coming back on. I know you're very busy with all your shows and your real life and everything. So we'll get into what's been keeping you busy, but I know you've been a little under the weather too. So are you feeling better now?
I'm feeling better. I'm not sure I'm sounding as good as I will in a few days, but I am on the upswing, which is good enough. My public radio station where I work actually put me on the air to raise money yesterday for our fund drive. So it can't be that bad.
You sound good to me. You know, it's funny doing what we do. Whenever anyone is sick for an extended period of time, I immediately look at the husband and think he's been putting Visine in your wine or, or something. So do me a favor and tap the table 3 times if you're not okay and need help.
Will do. No, I'm just fine. Kevin's not even here. If he were, I would be complaining about the weird guy sitting in his underwear in the studio with me. But no, he's not even here. So don't worry about it.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. All right. Well, I just want to make sure. You never know. We listen to a lot of these shows with some weird twists. So really thrilled to have you back on. Wanted to have you back on because we need you to explain white people to us again.
All right.
And see, I like how you're just so willingly ready. You're ready to do it.
Yeah,
and
I'm happy to be your white translator. It's cool.
Yeah. We need that. And then my brother, very oddly, I guess, happened to ask me out of the blue last week when I was having you back on. So to make Big Bro happy, that was another reason I wanted to get you back on. But many people really enjoyed that episode. Shout out to J-Rod, my brother there.
Wait, does he have questions about white people too that I can help clear up?
Well, he probably does, actually. Yeah, actually, you know what? Here's what we should do. We need a
segment.
We need see, you know where I'm going. We need a segment and we'll figure out something, or maybe I'll send you an email and you just do a quick voice memo and send it to me as a response.
Oh my God. I would do that anytime. And if you would do the same for me, that would be fantastic. And of course, it would be a little weirder if you did it for me because it's super racist to say here's my black friend, filling in the blank on what's going on with this. But it's super cool to do it with white people. I'm happy to be your white translator. I'll do it anytime you want.
I would not be offended. It is a little racist, a little weird, but whatever. That's the world we live in. So
not weird to me.
As we've discussed before, I don't have any problem. Turnabout is fair play. So I got you if that's what you need. But so anyways, here's the first question. So, hey, have you heard any good podcasts lately?
I have heard some good podcasts lately. Actually, I'm going to talk about a podcast that isn't mine for a second. My favorite podcast right now, and I know this isn't why you asked the question, but I'm going to answer it this way, is called My Dad Wrote a Porno. I don't know if you've listened to it.
No, that's not where I was. Yeah,
I know, but I have to plug it. I don't know the people. They're British. It is super dirty. You cannot listen to it with your kids. Basically, it's this British guy. He found out his dad, who's older, is now writing pornography. And so he is just reading it. And he has hilarious 2 friends. They all just sort of bust on it and talk about it. And he's just, all they're doing is reading it and talking about it. And it is, talk about a magic combination of the right people doing the right podcast. It's so dirty, but because they're British, it doesn't matter. It's just great. I can't recommend it highly enough. So I know that's not why you asked. You're probably asking because of our new Law and Order podcast, right?
I was, but slow down because we're not there yet. See,
Okay.
I actually wanted to talk about the other true crime podcasts that are out there. I wanted to give the Law and Order podcast its own segment and let you kind of breathe there. But
I'll settle back then.
yeah, right. Gotta rein you in a little bit, Rebecca. No, but no, because keep it in this kind of with true crime though. Like I think I saw you tweeting about In the Dark and what's the other one called? Accused. Accused, right. So, and I've been listening to, well, actually, I'm caught up on both of them. And actually, I'm rolling with Breakdown again as well. And I don't know if you listen to Breakdown or not.
Sure do, yeah.
Okay, cool. So I just wanted to see maybe if we could just talk about those because I have some questions just around those specific podcasts that, just have to deal with because how they shine a light on the investigations and the pain, the victims' families and the wrongfully accused, before someone was wrongfully convicted. Since we've talked, these are two new shows, right. I think we talked back in, I don't know when we talked, but anyway, it's been months since we spoke. So we have these new shows. So I just kind of want you to, I guess, kind of get your overall opinion on them maybe, and then I have some specific questions about our justice system and stuff like that. So
yeah, anyway. And you're actually catching me on the right day because I just spoke to Amber and Amanda from Accused this morning.
Dude, yeah, see, last time I talked to you, you had Shruti Panamanini on the show. And I'm always like one step behind you.
Oh, please. It's not like you're not able to get good guests. Give me a break.
Well, I got you. You're right.
That's true. But I actually talked to them this morning. And, I also talked to Madeline Barron a couple weeks ago who does In the Dark. Now, I will tell you, these two podcasts are very different from one another. They're both outstanding. And the thing that makes them interesting to me is they both have a completely different point of view and goal than any other true crime reported podcast out there. In the Dark's goal is to look at the cops and say, what did the cops do wrong in this investigation? And they were handed this tremendous, tremendous karmic gift right before their podcast aired about 3 weeks before, where the case they were looking at was solved. Right. So I think what's interesting about that is it gave them this huge opportunity to say for real and knowing it to be true that you were wrong when you looked at this guy, and you were wrong when you looked at this guy, and you were wrong when you ruined this guy's life, because we know who did it. There is a person that confessed to doing it. So they're able to they're not claims anymore. They're statements of fact, that the police were wrong when they did X, Y, or Z. So it's really, really interesting. It's beautifully put together. I think it's nearly perfectly produced. Accused, to me, I'm not ranking them, okay? Because I love them both very much. To me, Accused is more addictive and more compelling because of their singular position. Now, when I talked to Amber this morning and Amanda, that show of mine is going to be the one that airs this weekend. We're going to talk about Accused, and you're going to hear that conversation. They have something that nobody else who's done a true crime podcast has, in that they are trying to solve the crime and figure out what the answer to the mystery of who killed this woman, Beth. But they have the victim's family in their corner. They also want to find out the answer. It's not the same as with the Wetterlings. I think the Wetterlings were in that position before the case was solved, but they're sort of the sympathetic parents in the dark. And in this podcast, the issue is that the prosecutor and the police for years and years and years would not reopen this case and look at it. And in every other case, like if you look at Adnan Syed's case, for instance, Heyman Lee's murder, the prosecutor is able to say, I can't comment because we're talking to the family and we have agreed that this is the course of action we're going to take, and we're going to continue to pursue justice against Adnan Syed, XYZ. They can sort of lean on that relationship with the family. Right. The family in Accused has basically given up on the prosecutor doing anything. So they've hired a lawyer who then reached out to the reporter, Amber, and that's the point of view she has. So she's looking at the police and the prosecutor. The prosecutor isn't able to say no comment because I'm working with the family. He's not. He's just saying, he's not even saying no comment. He's just not talking to her because he's just being... It's insane. I've never heard anything like this. He's being the biggest
asshole in the history of assholes. Because I listened to the most recent episode where like she can't even get him to literally, you just said it, but she literally cannot even get him to say the words no comment. It's ridiculous. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
I've never heard anything like that before. This is not somebody who is a private lawyer. This is a public elected official, right?
Right.
And, I work in a newsroom, and it's happened to me also when I've, when you know someone isn't going to talk to you, they'll say no comment, or they'll give you some other line, or they'll have their PR person write you a note and say, we're not going to talk to you, so just give up. They'll say something. This guy, she was chasing him down a hallway. There's no reason for him to not talk to her. No reason for him to not say no comment. So he's just, it's really, really something.
Right. And then people can hear this, but then there's that, the conversation where they're actually in his office, and she's debating, going back and forth with his admin or receptionist, whatever it is. Secretary. And then there's another attorney, someone who works for the county there, and says, who are you looking for? He's very reasonable, says, okay, well, why don't you just make an appointment then instead of just showing up? I mean, I think it just highlights just how unreasonable that this district attorney is being, because, another person in the office was just like, oh, okay, well, yeah, then just make an appointment. Like that's the proper course. So he would acknowledge you. Right. And so the fact that she can't get that acknowledgement, and she captured it very beautifully. She
did. And it's so well done. I think newspaper reporters are the best position to make these kinds of podcasts. I mean, if you look at Bill Rankin's show, he is positioned to really tell us stuff about the justice system in Georgia, which, is really about the justice system everywhere, just with, minor differences here and there. But he is perfectly positioned because he's been doing this forever. And the great thing about Amber and Amanda's podcast is that Amanda has been producing video forever. So that multimedia component that sometimes newspaper reporters don't have, she knows audio. I mean, video and audio, it's the same kind of production. You have, you need your scene setting audio, you need your ambi, you need your B-roll audio, you need all that stuff. She knows all that stuff. So that's why it sounds so good. I think it's super duper addictive. I just think it's really, really well done. And I like those ladies a lot. They're very scrappy. And, I appreciate their sort of Scooby and Velma team of two approach to this. I just think it's great.
Yeah. It's kind of like, everything kind of obviously reverts back to Serial, but it's kind of like, it's like Sarah and was it Julie? Was it Julie with
Dana?
With her?
Yeah.
Dana, there we go. It's kind of like them, but on a more, what would you say? Like
it's more intimate. I mean, they
right. Oh, yes.
Even with Serial, they had the whole sort of This American Life staff at their disposal when they made the first season of Serial. I mean, they may have been working on it independently, but they had Julie Snyder. They had all these sort of high-level editing capacity they could tap into. They had, all the sound production stuff in place. I mean, these two reporters really have mostly done this by themselves. They do have somebody helping them mix, I understand, at a radio station. But it's just so, so good. And I think that the idea of surfacing a cold case from like 40 years ago and making you care is a hard thing to do.
It is. And sometimes I can be closed-minded to the new stuff I listen to, and a 40-year-old case didn't really move me. But, I'm like, I like this genre. I'll give them a shot. And yeah, I mean, they're killing it with the way it's laid out. And for sure, for them to, I don't want to say just to be newspaper reporters, but for, the art of doing, this radio, or not this radio thing, but the radio thing that you do, and, that is so compelling.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. So yeah, well,
I think it's because Amber has, she says in the beginning, she has to take a leap and kind of make it her story a little bit. She has to be in the story. So you actually care because she cares, and she lets you know that she cares, and she tells you why she cares, and then she backs it up. So she's able to say there are 4 other suspects in this case. This is all the other thing that's just so great. There are 4 other viable suspects in this case. And she talks to the 3 of them that are still alive. One of them's dead. 3 of them are still alive. And we hear conversations with all 3 of them. And I'll tell you, newspaper people and also, public radio people, the newsroom where I work, just like the shoe leather reporters who do stuff every day, who are filing stories every day and chasing longer investigations, they make 50 phone calls a day. And they just, they tape everything, and they're used to that whole process. And I think that when we hear stories reported by public radio people or by radio people, we sort of hear what the work that they're used to doing. They make some phone calls, but they're very production focused and that shoe leather, like newspaper skill. I mean, Sarah Koenig was a newspaper reporter for a long time. She was a newspaper reporter actually here in New Hampshire for a long time.
Okay.
And she, so she has that skill too. And I think I don't know, there's really something to hearing that and then hearing the frustration. I asked her today, this is a spoiler alert for my conversation with her, but I asked her if she would write a story. Yeah, I asked her if she was interested in writing a story just about Moser blowing her off. Like, 'cause to me, that's a story. I mean, he's on the public dollar. He's an elected official.
Yes.
And, he has a beef with her paper because of this lawsuit thing. And she said, I'm too angry probably to write that story. I'd have to ask my editor. I'm really, really angry. And it's like, yes, this is exactly why she's the right person to do this show, because she makes you care because she cares. And I think she's great. I love the show. And I love In the Dark too. I don't want to say it's not good because it's also great. It's different. It's texturally different. It's laid out differently. Each episode of In the Dark for me, one of the reasons I love it also equally but differently, each episode of In the Dark is like a standalone thing. And for me, Accused is very much like an 8-part. Like I listened to all the episodes like in a row. I couldn't stop listening to it when I started.
Right.
And In the Dark is like weekly, and I feel like each episode is a perfect package by itself. But Accused is very different. And if your listeners haven't listened to it, they should, because I think they'd like it.
No, I agree. Yeah, they're 1 and 1A. And they just highlight, again, what we can do differently. And then there's breakdown with Bill Rankin, another, like you said, another newspaper guy. And that's just a crazy story in and of itself, too, obviously, with the case of
Justin Ross Harris.
Ross Harris?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, yes. Leaving his son in the car, his son dying. He was a sex fiend. Like, there's all kinds of weird, not sex fiend, like
he's a sex addict, probably.
Sex addict, right.
Probably had some impulse control issues. And his son dying, honestly, was probably an accident. I mean, it just probably was.
I'm sure I'm almost with, with like anybody cares, but I'm like 98.5%, and I have children and blah, 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 blah.
Me too.
But yeah, right. So, but I can understand, especially because of Bill Rankin's reporting on the case. And that's one thing too. See, the resources I feel like, or maybe just the normal investigation, like you're talking about, of these newspaper reporters, they're used to talking to every, like 8 attorneys when they write a new, it's like we get to leave these, have these interactive articles where like we're truly, well, we get to hear, 4 minutes of each conversation that, that really drives home that point. And I think that, it's the same thing with, both podcasts, In the Dark and in the Accused one too, where I think the resources and how they report really add so much depth to the story. But yeah, no, those are like my 3 favorite. And I'm glad that you checked those out as well.
I love them. Love them. Yeah.
So I have a couple questions off of those shows, because I probably need to get a prosecutor in here to defend this. But I guess I haven't had a prosecutor. We had Wyrick on, but we didn't really, we never go pro prosecution or,
but you know what? He's a great person to ask because he has been a prosecutor. And you have to understand, like, I'm not anti-prosecutor. I mean, I know a lot of prosecutors. Of course, the landscape here is different in New Hampshire, but prosecutors are doing their job, so very often their job is to win the case. They didn't investigate the case. Their job is to win it with what they've been given. So I get it. On the one hand, I mean, I do think that there's misbehavior. Obviously, that's a different issue. But what was your question? I'd love to know what your questions are about this.
These are kind of more general, just because it seems like there's so many errors, and I think you just kind of brought it up with they don't investigate the case, and that might kind of solve or add a lot of context to kind of what I'm getting at. But because the rigidity and the unwillingness to accept the truth and fact that sometimes is right in front of them is a bit scary to me. So I would love to talk to a prosecutor about that when, again, they're trying to win the case. I get that. We have the adversarial, that, it's the system's fault. A lot of the times it's not the individual, but at the same time, though, to be able to be that individual and to take a position, even listening to, that's one thing about the Breakdown podcast, listening to the jury selection, or the what's it called?
Voir dire, yeah.
Voir dire, yes. Listening to that and hearing the challenges and whatnot, and the finesse of how you want to connect. So anyway, that's a very long question, but yeah, just how they can just, if they know something is wrong, to just be so stuck. And I guess a lot of that has maybe more to do with, a lot of these post convictions and things like that. But
well,
so
it is a very, very this is being a prosecutor and even being a defense attorney. They do attract some of the most competitive people you'll ever meet in your life. Like if you look at, now keep in mind, in New Hampshire, it's different because the prosecutors actually are involved in investigations here in New Hampshire. If there's a wrongful death, potentially, they actually go to the scenes. They're involved from the beginning. And so someone from the state attorney general's office will literally go to like the murder scene and be there when the cops are doing the investigation. So they're involved every step of the way, and they really do know the lay of the land of the case by the time it goes to trial. But I know a bunch of people in the prosecutors, a bunch of prosecutors in the state, and most of them are either marathoners, triathletes, mountain bikers. Right. They have just sort of that like individual sports sort of competitive drive. And not with, I'd say, public defenders, but when it comes to defense attorneys, like litigators, it's a very similar thing. It's a very, very competitive, intellectually competitive atmosphere. And there is a sense of, so this is the thing, and this is going to sound crass, but this is just the way that it is. Like, to Rabia, Adnan's case is the most important legal case that's ever been, right?
Right.
To the prosecutors working on that case, it's one of like 200 cases that they're working on, right? So it is, they use what works for them and has worked for them in past cases to get convictions. It's sort of like I'm not saying in that case it's true, but that kind of is how it very often goes. It's like you use what works and what's worked in the past. You don't necessarily count on, a reporter coming out 40 years later and being like, why won't you make this a cold case? Like, what is the matter with you? Why won't you return my calls? Whatever he's doing has worked for him in the past, and he's been able to go to work and do his job and go home at the end of the day and go mountain biking or whatever. But they don't count on that. And I think that one of the potential outcomes here, like I just read a piece this morning that California, I guess, is passing a law to put prosecutors, have them have legal consequences if they cheat. And I think one of the things to sort of come from this enhanced, look at the justice system is going to be some reform in that area, and that prosecutors aren't going to be able to do this.
I think Robbie had mentioned that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Robbie mentioned that when she was on the show.
Yeah,
so that's a little plug, but yes.
So it's really I don't know. So I think there's just some of that. And then I also think there's a thing where, again, they have what they have. They don't prepare for months and months and months and years and years and years to try a case for the most part. In New Hampshire they do, but other places they don't. And, they kind of roll with kind of what they're given and what they have. And, the time it takes to learn the truth is very often a lot longer than the time it takes to try to secure a conviction. That's the sad but honest truth of it,
I guess that makes sense. It's kind of a churn and burn thing. Their job, and that's why I guess talking about this In the Dark show, and I think Bob Ruff has mentioned it, talking about Smith County and just different cases where sometimes it could also be like a makeup thing too, where there is. And I said in the dark. I guess I mean accused, where something has happened that has shined a negative light on the prosecution. And this is isolated to some specific cases, but where the prosecution's job is to win or to get a win, especially if they've been quote unquote embarrassed,
right,
they're under pressure for an election. There's so many outside.
That's the thing. Being elected it plays a huge part in this. Now, in New Hampshire, I was talking about the state AG's office. We also have a level of prosecutors. We have county attorneys who actually prosecute everything else that doesn't rise to the level of the state AG. And there are problems with it here. Statistically, we have a reporter looking at this story now in my newsroom. Depending on what county you're arrested in will determine the outcome of your case, because these are elected officials. They get elected with political tides. So, like in 2012, all these very conservative county prosecutors were elected because a bunch of Republicans were elected, and in 2010. And so it's like this is how it goes. And being elected and being a prosecutor, I think there's a conflict inherently there in a certain way, even though I know it's incredibly common. But elected judges, elected prosecutors, it's
sheriffs.
Tough. Yeah, it's tough. Sheriff is a great example.
Yeah, right. There's something. And there's so many examples, and you hear from the horse's mouth a lot of the times from these, especially people who have been there forever in those positions where, about what their motives really are. I don't know that people talk about that a lot. Do you hear that conversation with those like specific positions? And I guess you're talking about it now, but I feel like, How do we sound the alarm on that, or is that a lost cause because the people in those positions?
I mean, it's
they're going to be the ones.
Yeah, I mean that's just the way the system's set up a lot of places, and it's like the issue is that if you come into office, if you get elected because you made promises and you have an agenda, and assuming you also have people who've donated to your campaign and they sort of have an agenda and they sort of influence you in some way. Yeah, I mean, your accountability is that you won't be reelected, but if you have the office for 2 or 4 years, like you could ruin a lot of people's lives in that period of time. And you could make decisions that aren't reversible in that period of time. So I don't know. I mean, I think that's something that I think we don't quite have right here in this country.
Yeah, right. And I guess that's something that we can't solve in this one show, but it's certainly interesting to think about and put out there in light of everything. Another thing that it was interesting to me, and it's real specific actually, but and I don't know what you thought of this, but when they talked about on In the Dark, Jacob Wetterling case, when they talked about the history of the sex offender list.
Yep.
I thought that was fascinating. Were you aware of that, or the sex offender registry? Did you?
Oh yeah. I mean, that was the only thing I sort of knew about this case. I didn't know about the case itself. I just knew that there was a case from the Midwest that caused the sex offender registry to, exist. And I know there are a lot of problems with the sex offender registry, like a lot of problems. Right. I mean, I don't know if you know this. I mean, I know where the registered sex offenders live near me. I know. I've looked it up, and I know. Do I know what they did actually? No, I just know what it says on the website where I can look them up. And
we've gotten postcards. I mean, I haven't gone to the website near me. I probably should, but I've gotten. Do they send postcards where you are?
No, I've never gotten that, but I know that exists. Yeah.
Yeah, we've gotten postcards and I don't think they gave the physical address, but I think they said, in your such and such ranch in your neighborhood, there's a such and such and such and such. So yeah, I knew there was one near us, but I can look it up.
Meanwhile, let's just talk about like the registry, right? So let's think about what would have happened in the Jacob Wetterling case. This was a guy that they were sort of unwilling to like prosecute or even arrest for any of these other sex offenses. He would not have been on the sex offender registry, right?
Right.
I mean, so it's like,
right, yeah. Yes, it wouldn't have mattered.
It's a great example of a law passed out of fear without showing and I'm not saying that the whole sex offender registry like has never done any good. I'm sure there are instances where it's done a lot of good or where people have been protected as a result of it. But I don't know. There are a lot of things about it that make me very uncomfortable. It feels very unconstitutional to me. It feels very arbitrary how you can end up on the sex offender registry when you hear about 17-year-olds having sex with their 15-year-old girlfriend and ending up in the sex offender registry.
Right,
exactly.
Because you got a pissed off parent, which I'm not, I could get that sentiment. I got a 13-year-old. I could get it when we get to that point. But let's measure our punishment here.
Well, yeah, and it's tough. And there's actually a case here that you probably have heard about on the news. The St. Paul's rape trial, the guy, Owen Labrie, he has been fighting. I mean, he was acquitted of the most serious sex offenses in his case, but he was convicted on some. And one of the offenses he was convicted of, which was transmitting communications over the internet to his victim. One of those, I think it was that one, landed him on the sex offender registry for the rest of his life. He is fighting tooth and nail, I think, he wants to be exonerated of everything. But that's really, really the sticking point that, his lawyer during the trial was like, he cannot be in the sex. And now I can make a good case for why this guy should be potentially in the sex offender. But that being said, if he is, that could also mean the other St. Paul student, student X, who has a boyfriend or girlfriend that's a year younger, who have a very loving consensual relationship, could also end up on the registry. So it's very, very tough, and that's where I find it's just like the death penalty. It's just like you cannot guarantee you're going to get it right every time, and in that case, like we just shouldn't do it. I mean, that's how I feel about a lot of the things that we do.
No, I agree. Talking about the sex offender registry, certainly not defending, people who deserve to be on there. But the idea that it wasn't the initial intent wasn't to make it public was very interesting to me. Number one, because we talked about, where they are. But the initial intent, I believe, was to make it more of a tool for law enforcement to use to be able to track them. We talk about these stories and we talk about the difference of them, but some of these stories, like with Serial, I guess with Accused right now, at least as we stand, a lot of these stories are very compelling, but there is no outcome, if you will. They, like I said, they got lucky in the dark because they actually know who did it now. But with some of these others, they're essentially just stories about stories. And I think that's a perfect segue into, I need like a gavel drop, since.
Like a bunk, that kind of thing?
Right, exactly, yes.
Yeah. So, well, let me just say one last thing about accused before you say that, because I actually think there could be an outcome with accused. I mean, I think that, we know there are 4 other viable suspects. And I asked them this question, but they obviously weren't comfortable answering it for a variety of ethical reasons, and they were correct not to answer it, but I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask. I wanted to know if they thought that Beth's killer was still alive. So in other words, do they think it was one of the 3 people that they spoke to? Right. And they wouldn't answer that, except that I heard in the podcast, and you probably heard it too, Amber saying, I don't have arrest authority. I don't have subpoena power. I can't get a search warrant. Why would you need those things if you didn't think that the killer was still alive?
Right, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So
you're exactly right. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I waffle between, I was talking about this with Kevin this morning. He and I are both really on the fence between one of the 3 people we hear in the podcast and the one who's deceased. They're both very confounding, those 2 people and the stories that they have told. Yeah.
Can I give you my opinion real quick?
Oh, I'd love to hear your opinion.
So I don't think it's the guy who's deceased. I probably need to listen again, but I don't think it's him. And who I think it is, and just who I think it could be, is the Buzz.
Buzz Call.
Is his name Buzz?
Yeah, Buzz Call. Yep.
I mean, I just I can spend a lot of time giving you my theory on why I think it's, but I feel like there's just too much odd about that, their interaction, his story. Although I don't. His claims that, the time they spent together the night before she was murdered. However, and then all her friends are obviously like, oh, no, she would have never done that. I mean, not everyone admits to everything to everyone.
Right.
So the idea that they all think it's completely crazy that she would have spent that time with him the night before. So I don't know how much credence I give to that, but his answers, just something about him, his vibe. And then when the revelation about the connection with maybe with law enforcement too, I don't know. I mean, if I was going to zero in on someone, and maybe that's you shouldn't do that. You should probably properly vet everyone. He seems to be he's where I would lead if it's out of the deceased guy and him. I would lead towards him because there's just last person. Stories are odd. His response to the questions now, it's just weird to me. So I don't know what you think about that. But.
I'll tell you one thing that will add to your suspicions. Well, either add to them or make it more interesting. If you read the story, the Cincinnati Inquirer story that I think came out yesterday or today, I will send you the link. It's sort of the print version of it. It's online. There's one detail in it that they told me this morning they actually found out after they taped that episode of the podcast. So it wasn't included in the podcast. It is a detail that makes his story even stranger.
Okay.
I'm going to just tell you what it was. You don't have to read a 16-chapter story.
Either way, but yeah.
All right, I'll just tell you what it was. So basically, he says that he spent a couple hours with her, and then she came to his place later to use the phone to make a collect call.
Right.
Apparently, there was a house down the street where she had lived prior to living in her current apartment that she used to go down there all the time to use the phone, like all the time.
Okay.
And after she died, after her funeral, one of the people who lived in that house came home and found a note from her and $5 for long distance charges. She had used that phone on the day that she died.
Shut your mouth.
So she had access to a phone that she could have just walked down the street to use. That she had been using. So the idea that she would go to somewhere else to use the phone is not likely. Now, there's a couple of reasons why he could have told that story. Maybe it's true, who knows? But, it just, to me, it was another very interesting detail. But yeah, I'm really stuck. I really don't know. I mean, they've done a really good job of making a compelling case for... No, without even making a case, just showing, just telling us what happened.
Just telling the story, right?
And just telling the story. And that's what's so great about the podcast, is it's absolutely not saying it could be this, or it could be this, or it could be this. I mean, think about all the conclusions that you have come to just listening to this podcast. Right. I mean, I've come to the conclusion of like, okay, it was pre-DNA. So why would he say he was at her place and that she was at his place, unless there's something at his place that maybe he's trying to be preemptive about, the police finding, but it's pre-DNA. So
exactly.
It can't be. But that's where our mind goes. I mean, that's what's so amazing about how well they're doing this story, is that they are not saying any of that stuff.
No,
We are.
And I think as I was talking to you, I think I just figured it out. I think I know why he did it. It all so as you were talking, I've solved the case in my head.
Oh, good. Well, as long as you've solved it, you know.
Well, right. Well, yes. So I'm gonna send an email to
the police,
the lieutenant there at in Cincinnati.
Send an email to Moser. I'm sure he'll return your call.
Oh my God. Yeah. You know what? Yes, I will. I'll try. Maybe I'll try in person though. He might like my
You never know.
Face.
You never know. Okay. So these are their stories. We're about to segue into some self-promotion, right?
But before we do that though, because I want to say that I'm still waiting on my guest invite, by the way. But one thing I'm not waiting on is I'm not waiting on a website anymore, Rebecca, because you know why? The Vocal Minority Report finally has a website.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. You know, I know we needed a website. I thought it was going to be so hard. It would cost a bunch of money. And I hate both of those things. But surprisingly, it was incredibly easy to make. And I think it looks great. And you know what?
What?
No one's paying me for this, so I just really want to advertise the website, not who made it, not the platform, but I really want people to go and check out www.thevocalminorityReport.com and let us know what you think. It's our new baby. I'm trying to take a page out of you guys' book and do a ad on the fly. You like that?
Yeah, I do like it. It's a very good transition. That's why I was being so quiet. I was like, what is he going to say next?
so yes, I would ask you to go to vocalminorityReport.com.
It's just Vocal Minority. It's not the Vocal Minority Report.
It's not. It is. I'm sorry. It's the vocalminorityReport.com.
Oh, I dropped an L. I'm trying to go to it right now, and I didn't include the L. All right. I'm going right now. This is very exciting.
And you can give us like a quick visual tour and on the spot first impression of the website, you know, let people know what's in store for them when they go to the site.
Here we go. Oh, how nice. Are you a part of the silent majority? Are you a part of the vocal minority? I got to be honest, I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty vocal, but I'm also not a minority.
Well, you're a woman. You're there. You're with us, right?
That's true. I mean, I think women are technically not minorities, though.
Oh, okay. Well, see, that may be. See, never mind. I'll cut that part out.
That's all right. That's all right. Funny. I mean, I'm oppressed, of course. You know.
Of course.
I'll play that card whenever. As patriarchal society can suck it, but whatever. I'm definitely not a minority.
That should be the tagline. This patriarchal society should suck it. Can suck it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Nicely done. A very nice website. I'm very impressed. It looks great on mobile.
Thanks. And if you click those little white lines up to the top left there,
yes, that's called a hamburger menu. Yes. That's
what it's called. Yes. Oh, because it looks like a hamburger because it's three things. Wow. Look at that.
Yeah, I'm a web professional, so.
Okay, I see that. See, I'm not. We're new to this, but we want people to go and check it out. And we've got episodes there. They've got pictures of the guests and the episode.
And I'm doing the survey right now.
Yes, the survey. Thank you. Yeah, we really want people to go check out the survey. It's under contribute, but we're not asking for any money. We just want your information. And it's an anonymous survey that will help us with some demographics for sponsors and whatnot. So thanks for going to the website, Rebecca, live with us and doing the survey. I hope everyone else will do that as well.
I'm looking at your guest page, and it's like a really nice rainbow coalition of guests that you've had on the show.
Yeah, you like that?
I really do. I mean, this is diverse, man. You got some good diversity going on. All I have is white people on my show. This is great.
Well, yeah. Well, we try to mix it up a little bit because that's funny. I struggle with how many. I don't want to put too many white guests back to back. Not that there's any problem with it, so I always have to. But I also don't want to be super Whitey sucks and power to the people. There's got to be some diversity.
I hear you. Well, you had Jesse Thorne, and he is the king of all white people. He's wonderful. I love him. Yes.
Yeah, that's my dude there. Yeah, that's him. A really good episode.
If I could anoint a king of white people, it would probably be him.
I give you that. Yeah, he definitely. But you know what though? Who's a close second to him, and I didn't really know how cool he was, is Aaron Lammer from Longform.
Yeah,
he's on tour with Chance the Rapper he's in the band Francis and the Lights. So anyway, definitely we've had some cool guests. So we've been very fortunate. Shout out to the booking department, and we try to make it a nice little rainbow, capture all of the minority.
It's very nice.
And so thanks for going to that. And one more thing, speaking of websites. Don't forget to go to audibletrial.com/vocal report because Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial so you can check them out. I mean, if you like podcasts, you'll enjoy their over 180,000 titles that they have to choose from. Let's see, I think today is Russell Simmons' birthday, but I recommended his book last week. And speaking of guests, and you can see on that guest page, Rebecca, that we've got 2 New York Times bestsellers that we've had on the show, Rabia Chowdhury.
I thought you were going to say you had Russell Simmons on the show. I was going to be like, damn.
No, not yet. I read his book, though, and I recommended that one on Audible's spot last week, Success Through Stillness. It's about meditation. It's really awesome, actually. But I didn't want to plug him out, but I think it's his birthday, so I was just trying to do a little. So no, not yet, but he's on the list, right? So
I'll tell you, Russell Simmons. I think about him a lot, and here's why. Do you remember the show Behind the Music that used to be on VH1?
Of course.
All right, there was an episode, I think it was Behind the Music. It may have been a different show on VH1 or MTV. But anyway, there was one about P. Diddy, Sean P. Diddy Combs, of course.
Right.
And he
Puffy.
said something, exactly, Puff Daddy. He said something I will never forget, and it's actually something I kind of live by a little bit. He said when he was starting out, he decided to become successful. He would look at everything that Russell Simmons had ever done and try to do all the same things that Russell Simmons had done because Russell Simmons had been successful. And he thinks every morning he wakes up and it's like, you know what? Yeah, if I just do everything that Russell Simmons would do today, I could be successful. And there really is something to that. If there's somebody that you admire who's kind of doing what you want to do, just do what they're doing. You don't have to you just do it. You can do it in your own way, obviously. Like he's not going to do karaoke of Russell Simmons music, but take the person who's doing what you want to be doing or has a life you want to have and just try to live the way that they do and to do the things they did. And it's not a bad philosophy. It's really not. It's worked pretty well for me, actually.
That's really good advice, actually, and it's paying off a little bit for me, and I think that's a really good point. I like him. Want to shout him out again because I think it's his birthday. I mean, I think he's close to 60, but he looks like he's 45 or whatever.
Well, black don't crack, yoga. Right?
Exactly, right. And then I think meditation and yoga really might even help the melanin a little bit more. So that's why I recommended that book last week. Like I was saying, 2 of our guests who are New York Times bestsellers, like Russell Simmons, but so Rabia Chowdhury with Adnan's Story, and we had Dee Watkins, professor and author, on, both of Baltimore, ironically, or I don't know if it's coincidentally, I never know. But anyway, they both narrate their books. You can check them out, or any book of your choice. You can go find another Russell Simmons. Russell Simmons has 3 books on Audible, I believe. So you can find those, any book of your choice, by downloading your free audio book today by going to www.audibletrial.com/vocal report. Again, that's audibletrial.com/vocal report. All right, Rebecca, see, that's now we can get.
So it's audibletrial.com/vocal report. Is that right?
That's it.
See, I said it
right.
Slow. So in case your listeners didn't hear it, audibletrial.com/vocal report. Or just go to audible.com/crime. No, I'm just kidding.
No, hey. Either see, I had some trepidation about doing it with you on
okay.
there, but I thought obviously you're a wonderful sport, so you would play along.
I'll support. I'll follow you up. Absolutely.
Yeah. Because you know what? Because I listened to the Russell Simmons. How do you think I listened to the Russell Simmons book? I use yours. I use Crime.
Damn straight you did. Damn straight.
See?
Yeah.
See?
Yep.
And I mean, how do you think I eat all this Blue Apron and shit? I mean, thanks, Crime.
Sleeping on my Casper mattress.
Right. I got my Casper mattress. I didn't make my website with Squarespace, but I thought about it.
I am shipping so many things with my Stamps account. Anyway.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Speaking of time, right. Exactly. So.
All right. So you want to talk about something else, I think.
Yeah. So I want to talk about something else. So now we've talked enough about me. So now let's talk about.
Is this the self-promotional part?
Yes. Now you can do your thing.
Okay. What do you want to know?
So yes, I want to know about the podcast that I'm going to be a guest on in the somewhat near to distant future.
Yep.
These are our stories.
These are their stories. The Law and Order podcast. Yes.
Oh, my bad. Yes. Okay. Tell us the title and tell us about it so I don't screw it up.
It's called These Are Their Stories, the Law and Order podcast. And
there we go.
It was born of the fact, it's actually hosted by my other half, Kevin Flynn, and actually produced by him as well. So if you haven't guessed it yet or gotten an email yet, I will poke him, but that's really up to him. He basically has formed a show around the fact that I am a Law and Order addict. And I will watch it all day, every day, and then I will just sort of prattle on about things that pop up here and there in the show. And he's casual Law and Order fan, just like most people. And then when we were doing Crime Writers and we did our Law and Order special, we get so many people, like listeners and sort of some of our higher profile listeners sort of tweet us about it. That I told him, like, this is a thing. Like, there are a lot of people who obsessively watch Law and Order all the time, and it's not just me. And so he came up with the idea for the show. And so we launched it. We have, I think, our third episode actually drops. We're taping this on the fourth wall. We're taping this on a Tuesday. Our third episode drops tonight at midnight. It features Sarah D. Bunting, who is a brilliant web writer, blogger. She was one of the founders of Television Without Pity. She has Tomato Nation is her website, and she also blogs on Previously TV. She's just freaking hilarious. If you heard our trailer, she's the one in the trailer talking about on SVU how every day is like the first day at work, where you're like, someone was sexually assaulted, and how like weirdly
in
directed.
New York City?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
How weirdly directed that show is. But yeah, no, we're really excited about it. I mean, when you're doing anything new, it's like you sort of, I don't want to say, we're not like working out the kinks. I mean, I think the show sounds good and it's like super duper fun, but I'm just really excited to see where it goes. I think it's got like so much potential, and we've already got a little bit of an audience, which is nice. So yeah, we're pretty excited about it. I think it's fun. And the best part about it is I don't think we're doing it in such a way where you have to have seen the episode we're talking about to listen to it. Right. Like so the episode that's up tonight is like a season 8 SVU episode that you probably haven't seen recently. It doesn't really matter, because it's really just kind of about the characters, the way they're telling the story, the sort of, hey, it's that guy, actors who pop up, and just some of the tropes that happen on Law and Order that don't happen on any other show. So it's cool. I like it.
Is it all SVU related? So is it true? It's okay. So it's across the board.
It's across the board. It's Law and Order, SVU, and Criminal Intent, and we're only doing episodes that are based on real crimes. So they are. Man,
that's so.
It's great.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's ripped from the headlines episodes, and the reason we're doing that
so awesome.
is so that we can, at the end of the show, we sort of hear what the real crime was, and then we can sort of compare how the episode stacked up to the real story, whether or not they did a good job with it, whether or not they completely strayed from the story, whether or not it was exactly the same, which sometimes they are. Although the thing that we usually find is that sometimes, even if it's very, very close to the real story, Dick Wolf or whoever's writing that episode will have like the way he thought it should have turned out kind of be the ending.
Interesting.
So that comes up over and over again. But yeah, we're still booking, taping. We've got a couple of episodes in the can, and we're right now. We were going to do bi-weekly, but we've already got enough demand that we're now doing 3 episodes a month. So we're going to be doing
awesome.
3 weekly episodes at a time, 1 week break, and then 3 more weekly episodes.
Well, any episode that is a Criminal Intent one, I have to listen. Well, I'm gonna listen to all of them, to be clear, but Vincent D'Onofrio is my guy, so I love I love them all, but Criminal Intent, so I really want to check those. Yes.
I love that you love Criminal Intent. I love Criminal Intent too. I love it, love it, love it. It's so
that's
weird,
the best one.
But it's weird.
It's so weird, and I think his name is Bobby, right, on the show?
Yep.
And so he is just so. I mean, he made the show, obviously, but then my girl, his partner, I can't think of her name.
Eames. Yeah, it's
yes.
I always forget her name too, but I know who you're talking about. Yep, Gordon Eames.
Because she's amazing. She's in What About Bob? She was in Oz. She's a hell of an actress, and she's so good on playing off of him on Criminal Intent. But anyway, so no, that's my favorite one. So yeah, so note to Kevin, if you listen to this episode, the Criminal Intent one, that's the one you should be. Any of those you could book me for. But anyway, I digress though.
And so, we be bringing diversity to our guest list.
Right. Yes. Yeah. We need to get your guest page. You need a little brown on your guest page.
We can't have all white people talking about Law and Order. It's like the whitest thing ever.
No. Right. I mean, Law and Order. At least, think about it. You got Jesse L. Martin. You got you have Odafin Tuturola, one of the best names on TV. Mm-hmm. My man Ice-T. So we've got to Esipatha Murkison. I mean,
she's my favorite. We're actually doing an Esipatha Murkison episode. I think we're taping an episode that focuses on an episode that features her. Remember the one where she shot the kid?
I do, yes.
Yeah, the police shooting. And it's so funny to watch that one now because it's like, she's a cop who shoots a kid who's ostensibly unarmed. And as an audience member, you're totally rooting for her like the whole time because
it's because she's a black woman,
and
so.
she's also awesome. She's the best.
Right, no, yeah, she's amazing, and anyone who was on Pee Wee's Playhouse gets much respect.
Yeah.
She was the mail lady. I like to throw that out there because I like obscure shit. So anyway, but yeah, no, she's amazing for sure. And she's pretty good on that show on NBC. I think it's called like Chicago somebody or other, Chicago Hope or Med or something.
Yeah, I don't watch that show. I have to say, like, I just there's like a lot of new TV. Like, I really love HBO. I really love premium TV series, like 10 o'clock series designed to be on at 10 p.m. Like, it's very, very hard for networks to do those well these days. I think compared to what's on cable, it's just really, really tough. And compared to what's on Netflix and what's on Amazon. Oh yeah, right. It's tough, you know?
Yeah, and the only reason why that one, because I don't have cable, so I use Hulu and other stuff. So and stuff will roll. So I was watching something and those, it's very smart. It'll just roll to the next NBC show or whatever. Yep. And the one thing about it, I think what network TV is trying to do, realizing their limitations when it comes to like really gritty, storytelling that we really like, that we go to cable for. I think they are like, you know what? We'll just do the diversity card. We'll put because I swear ABC and NBC now has so like that Chicago Hope or whatever it is. It's so diverse, so I think maybe that's their end. So there's going to be homosexuals, there's going to be Asian and black, and there's female leads, and so I don't know if you have any opinion on that. You don't watch the shows, and I don't watch tons of them. I'm just basing it on when I do see a few minutes like of Shondaland or the ones that compete against her. I'm just noticing.
Yeah, and I think Shonda Rhimes was really the groundbreaker in that network diversity area. Although I have to say, I watched a little bit of Grey's Anatomy. It was first on years ago, and that cast was very diverse from day one. It was not designed. It was designed to be a diverse cast. Although, of course, the lead, of course, white. But whatever. She came out with Scandal. Well, you know what? The black.
And I guess ER was pretty diverse.
Not at first. It was not. Nope. It was Anthony Edwards, George Clooney, Juliana Margulies. Right. It was all white people. It was not.
And then I guess Eric LaSalle was he on initially?
He was on initially. Yeah.
But so he was the only, and then they got a little darker. But it was only like still just that one or two. Yeah, you're right. It wasn't.
And it was bad. And the thing about the Eric LaSalle character, if you watch the old episodes now, you really notice that it was like he's always struggling like with his anger, and
he was the worst black. It was you're exactly right.
He was the angry black man.
Yes, he was the angry black man.
And it wasn't cool. And it was like, it wasn't. And so I will tell you this, the thing that I like about the whole Shonda Rhimes thing, and I apologize to anybody who's listening to your podcast who's like a big Grey's Anatomy fan. I was watching the other day, it just happened to be on, and I was, I couldn't find a Law and Order, and I was just watching TV as I was editing, undisclosed actually. And yes, I do watch TV while I edit audio. It's a weird ADHD superpower that I have. Anyway.
I do too, so that's cool.
Grey's Anatomy is a terrible show. It is not good. It is not good. The music on that show plays so loudly you can barely hear what the people are saying. The sort of like longing look that was awesome in season 1 does not hold up like in season 6 and 7 and 8 and 9, and now it's like a whole new cast. And I was watching it and I'm like, this isn't good. And I'm like, you know what though? When a show isn't good and it's diverse, you know that you're going somewhere. When bad shows are also diverse, and it's not just the premium cable shows that have a lot of diversity, when bad TV is also showing diversity, we are actually making a little bit of progress, I think, in the TV landscape. So
yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah, because I mean, it's normalizing things. So yeah, even if yes, we can be on good shows or be on bad. Or
congratulations, you've made it. Exactly. You can now be on crappy shows.
We can be mediocre too. Golly, man, you talk about progress. We've solved it all. No, that's because the only episode of Grey's Anatomy I watched is one that was directed by Denzel last season, I guess it would have been. Uh-huh. And that's only because I listened to the Denzel Washington is the greatest actor of all time, period, podcast. Yep. And they hit me to that he was going to direct that episode. And it was kind of awesome, though, because whate's her name? Gray, whatever her name is.
Oh, Ellen Pompeo, Meredith Grey.
Yes. Yeah. Isn't she married to a black man? So shout out to her.
In real life, yes.
Yes, in real life. Yeah, right. So not that it matters, but I'm just being funny. But anyway, she was deaf. She got beat up I think she got assaulted, unfortunately, by a black man in the episode.
Right.
But it was an accident. And
of course it was.
Right. Well, of course. Right. Well, Denzel's directing it, so you had to soften it. Right. But she was deaf the whole episode. So it was very, or not. Yeah. She was without hearing. She had suffered hearing loss. So it was done really well, but that's the only one I've seen maybe in years, since the one I saw where a dude had a pole stuck through his body, which was another black guy. So anyway, all right, I digress. I didn't mean to go down at Grey's Anatomy. I don't even watch the show. I didn't mean to go down there.
No, that's okay. And I didn't mean to diss it so hard. And I'm sure that it was just the episode that I was watching that wasn't so great. But at least it was diverse.
Our audience leans more toward the female side, or so I think, but people can always go to the website and do the survey to let me know for sure. But so yeah, I don't know if they're all fans of Grey's Anatomy or not. So, obviously we talked a little bit about race on this episode, believe it or not.
Do you have a question? Do you want me to translate anything about white people for you? Like, why did this white person do this?
Kind of, sort of. I wish I had something more specific to that, and next time I definitely will.
Or just email me and I'll send you a voice memo.
Perfect. Okay, you know what? That's what we're going to do. It's going to be... Yes, that will be a staple of the show going forward, a benchmark, if you will.
Oh, I have a question for you.
Yes.
You. Did you watch the Amanda Knox documentary on Netflix?
I haven't watched it yet because in my mind I've always said she's guilty. Kind of flippantly. So I don't know the full story.
See, I would. Oh man, if you think she's guilty, I'd love for you to watch it. I'd love to know what you think after you watch it. I actually am really interested in the people who think that she's guilty, only because this actually came up the other day, and I watched it, and I know a little bit about the case, and there are other elements mixed into the case that have led a lot of people to think that she's guilty that have nothing to do with actual evidence or anything. And okay. I don't think, she's been acquitted at this point. So, you can say she's legally not guilty for sure. There are slightly problematic things that could very easily be pinned on, bad interrogation technique and so forth. But the whole case was built on the fact that this cop thought she did it. That's the whole case. Okay. This cop saw some devil in her eyes, like literally, and that's what he said, and was like, I know she's a sex fiend. I know she did it. And so when I put out a tweet saying, like, I really would love to hear from people who honestly think that Amanda Knox is guilty and hear why, and then people were tweeting back to me, oh, because she and her boyfriend bought bleach at a store together right before the murder. And it's like, no, they didn't. No, they did not.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They did not. So there's a lot of evidence that's out there that people think that they know that isn't real. Like there's a story that she did cartwheels at the police station. That's not true. It's just really interesting. So I would love for you to watch it and then let me know what you think.
For sure. No, because I think my only knowledge of that is really, is peripheral, obviously. But then, it's 2020, it's Dateline, it's not 48 Hours Mystery or whatever, or whatever medium I would have heard it, back in the lexicon back then. And I've had arguments about it. So okay, I'll check that out.
Yeah, but if talking about the things that play into it, let's talk about what's playing into people thinking she's guilty, right? There is the poor white girl mentality. People like, Americans can just go to another country and like do whatever they want to do and expect that we're going to like bail them out because, whatever. So there's that. There's also this thing where Americans and the American government, and they even have tape in the documentary of Donald Trump saying like, we just need to go over there and like show them what's what. I mean, there's no evidence, whatever. And the Italian people being like, don't tell us how to run our justice system.
Right.
So some nationalistic stuff. And then there's some media stuff, especially in Great Britain, where the media is like a little bit unhinged, the tabloid culture there, where reporters from England, one in particular, were just printing everything. So this is a British victim with an American alleged perpetrator, and the evidence and the so-called evidence being printed was really, really bad. So it almost became like a nationalistic story where like people in the UK like think that Meredith was victimized by this American. And so it's very, very interesting. I think there's a lot of interesting factors here. I think it's worth taking a look. I'd love your point of view. If you still think she's guilty after it, that's completely fine. I would just love to talk about it.
I'm going to check that out for sure. I was going to ask you about Donald Trump and Hillary and Lester Holt and that odd dynamic of a middle-aged black man,
Republican,
an elderly white man, and an elderly white woman, and that in the whole dynamic, not about the what was said necessarily, but more about the just how odd that was, at least to me. I don't know if you took anything away from that dynamic. You have him pointing and yelling and sniffing and interrupting. And you got Lester trying to bring them all together. He asked the question about race. Neither of them answered the question. They both talk about how great the police are and fighting terrorism. I'm like, what the hell does that have to do with about race? I'm like, can we answer the question? So I kind of wanted to get into just your opinion, because I feel like that happens a lot with a quote unquote white America, or everyone's 14 Facebook friends that they want to defriend now,
right.
Just don't seem to get it when confronted with issues of marginalization,
right,
and race issues that really matter to people
and that exist. They are real. They're not. Yes. They're not made up, and it's not. Right. It's not the vast majority. This is the thing that makes me crazy, and I've heard myself say it on my own show. Okay, but it still makes me crazy. The vast majority of cops are wonderful and great and are doing their jobs, and it's just like a few bad apples, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
No. It does not matter whether or not the vast majority of cops do a good job when the bad ones do such a bad job. When
they're killing people,
when they're killing
the worst
people.
job. See, that's the thing about it's not just a bad job. I'm not getting on you. I'm just saying it's the worst job.
They are killing people and racially profiled, ruining lives. I mean, even if you take, and I'm not saying to take the killing off the table, okay? Just the walking down the street part of being white versus being black. It is not something that I think, and this is the problem with the political process, is that in order to be an important voice and in order to be heard, you have to win, right? And the way that you win isn't to change people's minds. It's to say something that resonates with them. So during the election process, this is the thing that has been so stark to me during this whole process, is that Bernie Sanders, the least likely on the face of it candidate to resonate with sort of the most people, was completely open and honest about this situation during the entirety of his campaign. And he really, really energized a broad coalition of people who then looked at this issue a little bit differently. But that's something that I think that, Hillary does not feel comfortable doing. We all know how sort of Donald is on the issue, and just sort of in some instances pretending it doesn't exist, in other instances saying he's going to fix it and it's going to be amazing, but you don't really know.
Yeah, you know what's weird, and to shine a light on Donald real quick, and thinking about him being a flip flopper, and obviously they all are, but I remember back when Sandra Bland died, and I guess I could go find it. Maybe I'll put it on this episode, where he was talking about how terrible the officer was. And obviously, I guess everyone who saw that.
But he was campaigning in Texas around that time, right? If I remember correctly.
Right. Yes. Right. And I actually gave him, now mind you, this was before he was the nominee and all that, but I gave him a bit of credit, at least to be reasonable in that moment, to be like, yeah, this was screwed up. I don't give a darn. I watched the video. I think he said something like, yeah, he calls the officer out of line, and it was against that. So I don't know why I'm bringing that up, just to show that his flip floppiness and law and order approach and praise of the police. You can miss me with all that.
You know what I really can't wait for, and I don't know how you feel about this. I can't wait for Obama to no longer be president, because I would really, really would love to hear him talk when he's no longer president of the United States.
Yeah, get that real talk, right?
There is so much.
When people want to hear the black man, I can't wait for him to. But because I like hearing Bush. Honestly, I like hearing Bush talk candidly. Now that he's no longer president, I won't say that I care for him or care more about his presidency, but listening to him speak candidly,
him more, right?
I do like him more, because I'm like, okay, word, I get it. He explained what he was thinking in that moment in the classroom and what was really going through his mind and why he looked that way. And, to hear a person give that in their own whatever. Yeah. So I can't wait to hear Obama really talk about, to what was really going on. Because what he experienced, obviously, is unlike any other president has ever experienced, or maybe will ever experience, being the first Black president and everything that he went through. So I agree with you. I'd love to hear.
No, I'd love to hear his take on being the president. I'd love to hear his take on. I really think, he might, and this isn't his job. I mean, if he isn't the president anymore, he just wants to play golf every day. He can do whatever he wants. That's his choice, right?
Well, he's played a lot of golf while he was in office. So he might, geez Louise, how much more golf can he play?
But he really could, I think, lead a lot of this conversation. And so could Michelle. And so could, because it's the things, he's saying a lot of that stuff now, but he's not even constrained from talking because he's the president. He's constrained from actually doing the kinds of things that a non-president can do in terms of just like showing up, being places, sort of like beating the drum.
He can Jimmy Carter it up,
Exactly. He could. And granted, he may choose not to, and I'm not, far be it from me to tell Barack and Michelle what to do when they're no longer in the White House. But I do think that this is an issue that they could Jimmy Carter up, and that's a great way to put it. And I think Jimmy Cartering should become a verb that we start using. Because Jimmy Carter is the bomb. He is unbelievable. He's like the greatest ex-president who's ever lived, as far as I'm concerned.
He is, and I watched one of those PBS documentaries on him, and I feel like I know so much about it. All I knew about him was peanut farmer, country guy, Georgia. The basic shit. Humanitarian, obviously, the stuff that you're gonna know. But to hear about from whence he came, truly, and then what he's done in the subsequent years post presidency. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So that. So everyone start using hashtag Jimmy Cartering. Is that what we're
Jimmy Cartering? Yes. He's such an awesome person that his brain cancer shrunk and went away because it could not handle his awesomeness.
Oh wow, that's when you got that juice right there.
That's right.
That's right. Yes, when you can get cancer out of you. I think that's all I probably have for you. I know you have to. Because when we hit on, I think we got everything. Because I don't have anything. I mean, I could keep talking about race, but I think we covered it as far as the
yes, and we can talk about race issue by issue. And seriously, send me an email, and I'd be happy to come down here and record something and send it to you anytime.
Awesome. Okay,
I can be your white person translator. Absolutely.
Beautiful.
And if I don't know something, I could talk to another white person to find out.
Oh wow! See, and you know what? And because you're white, you've got this unlimited resource. You guys, when you go to your secret meeting and whatnot,
I know so many white people. I know so many white people.
Right, that's awesome. So okay, and then well, hey, so speaking of things to watch, though, I want you to do something for me. I want you to watch Atlanta on FX.
Will do. I've heard about it. I've heard a lot of good things about it.
Yeah, because I want to know what I want to know what you think of Atlanta. That's. Because to me, Atlanta is the best representation of being black captured on TV right now. Mm-hmm. Maybe ever. Well, ever might be actually, you know what? That might be right because The Wire is really black, but that's also poor black people committing crimes and a terrible, and relatively speaking, a bad part of the country. Whereas Atlanta is more like life, but it's still a little more edgy. But anyway, so I don't want to. I'd love for you to check out Atlanta and give me your opinion or give us your opinion on that show.
All right, I would
really
love
resonates
to.
with me.
Would love to.
Cool.
I'll check it out and I will get back to you and let you know what I think. And you can have a conversation with a white person about a black show. Although one of my favorite reality shows on the middle of the road networks in the 30s, Channel 30. Here it's in the 30s. But what are those shows that have the dance moms, whatever? There's a show called Step Up.
Yes, it comes on Lifetime. Yes, and I don't watch it, but my mother does. So my daughter. So I'm aware of it.
That show. I love it.
Okay.
I love it, love it, love it. I think it is a really, really great window into some cultural stuff. I think it is just really interesting to see this very specific style of dance. It's called, what is it called? Competition drum majorette. It's called something. It's majorette. It's like a hip hop.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, yeah, okay.
Hip hop majorette. Yep. And having grown up in a pretty diverse community, and being I was actually the drumline captain in my high school marching band, and we had majorettes, it's just a very, very interesting show, and I love it. And you can cut this whole part out of your podcast, but props to your mom for watching it too, because I try to catch it whenever it's on. Whenever I go by it, I'm like, oh yes, got to watch this. So I'm trying to get more of the white people I know to watch it. I think they would enjoy it.
Okay, well, cool. Well, no, I won't cut this part out because this might be the first time my mom's ever gotten some props on the show. So
props to your mom. She's got good taste.
Well, cool. Then we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. You and I know we're both very busy, but we need our own media and TV review podcast. We need like the soup where we do clips. I'll collect clips, and then you and I can just talk about them like a soup format.
We can.
Or maybe we'll just do the best of the month or something. Anyway, all right, whatever. I'll figure something out. So
figure something out. We can have a little conversation about pop culture anytime you want, and I will watch Atlanta and get back to you and let you know what I think.
Awesome.
I'll let you know. I'll let you know if it's actually a good representation of being black in America.
Yeah,
I would know.
Please do. Yes, that's we really need the compassionate white woman to weigh in. We certainly need your thoughts on all things black. So
that's right.
But cool. As always, very happy and wonderful to have you on. Thanks so much. You know what? One thing I need from you, and then I'm done with you for real, is can you do a liner for us? Because I didn't get it last time, and I try to remember now. Can I get you to say your name, identify yourself, and say that you're a part of the vocal minority, and then I will save that and play that in perpetuity.
Sure. My name is Rebecca Lavoie, and I am part of the vocal minority.
Beautiful. Awesome. All right.
Although cool. I'm actually part of the vocal majority because I'm white.
See, there you go. That whole thing will play out.
That is on the record.
Yes. And that is, in a radio professional, this is where I'm gonna start fade. I'm gonna fade it out here, and the music will come in, and
the patriarchal society can suck it. Have a good night. Bye bye.
Right, you too. Bye bye. Hey, welcome back. Really great to have Rebecca Lavoie on. She's our first repeat guest. This is somewhere around our 35th episode. I've kind of lost count and the numbering is off, but let's just call this number 35. She's our first repeat guest. What a pleasure. Make sure you check out both of her podcasts, Crime Writers On, and check out These Are Their Stories, the Law and Order podcast. You can see that she's got great insight, perspective, sense of humor, and she puts on 2 really good shows. Also, make sure you check out our new website, thevocalminorityReport.com. That's thevocalminorityReport.com. Go there, check out the tabs. We've got the contribute page, which is simply asking you to fill out an anonymous survey. And on the front page, there's a search bar. There's the most recent episode. Then there's also a place for you to leave comments. You can contact the show there or via email. That's vocalreport@gmail.com. You can email the show, anything you have. Follow us on Twitter @VocalReport. Go to Facebook, like the page. That's facebook.com/TheVocalMinorityReport. Also, go to audibletrial.com/VocalReport. That's audibletrial.com/VocalReport for your free audiobook. Shout out to Cutesy Custom Kids and F3E Marketing. Music for this episode and many others is provided by my boy, Shy Wright, and Audio Crack Music. Special thanks to Lizzie for her help. We'll talk to you next episode. All power to the people. Peace.
This has been a Vocal Neighbors production.